We are live.
Oh, thank you. Good evening to all. Welcome to this webinar hosted by Beyond 2020 25 Happening Careers in Accounting and Finance in association with Prime Academy.
We are live.
So today, my name is Kamaluddin.
Good evening to all.
Welcome to this webinar hosted by Beyond 2020. I will be a host for today's meeting. This is our fifth webinar in the series of webinars that we have held till now. The agenda for today's meeting is a presentation for 20 minutes by the presenter and expert talks for 15 to 20 minutes and a Q&A for the last session. You can always post the questions in the chat box and in the YouTube comments. We will try to pick it up and answer the questions as much as possible. In case we are not answered, we will get back to you on the questions in the form of summary later. To begin with, I should let you know about the expert today. Today's expert is Mr. Krishna Ramachandran. He is an alumnus of Delhi University. He is triple qualified. He is a CA, CS and CWA. He has some 25 years of experience after qualification. His previous employers include KPMG, Vodafone, Ernst & Young, and Allianz. He is currently the global lead and global head and lead for RoyalPhilips. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Krishna Ramachandran with a hi in the box. Hello, sir.
Hi, good afternoon.
Thank you, sir. So I should also introduce Mr. Pattabhi Ram, who is the moderator for the meeting. I have no big introduction for him, as everybody knows him. Most of the people in this profession knows him. He is a teacher, he's a chartered accountant, he's an author, and I welcome Mr. Pattabhi Ram to this webinar. Hello, sir.
Thank you, Kamal.
Welcome, sir.
Good evening, Krishna, and good evening to all of you. We'll make a slight modification from what Kamaluddin announced. We'll have a conversation with Krishna directly. There will be no presentation, which means we revert to what we did in our first, second, and our third webinars. In the fourth webinar, when we did equity research yesterday, we changed the format a bit. Krishna, the audience ultimately would predominantly be accounting professionals. There might be some people non-accounting, but the focus will essentially be on accounting guys. This is a program intended to be on career choices. Like Kamaluddin said, we have assembled 25 career choices, and we thought that we'll use this forum as another medium by which we can tell people about what roles they can play. You have been in the BPO space for now a couple of years, I understand. Can you very briefly tell us some historical perspective of the emergence of business process outsourcing as a career option for people?
Yeah, I think what is very important for us to understand is what is outsourcing, right? Because very often we think business process outsourcing is an industry itself, and India is a big opportunity, and we work there, and most accountants, graduates, and engineers work in such places. But maybe if we just step back a little bit and say, instead of looking at BPO and looking at what do I do as an employee. So if I'm an employee, I do A, B, C, D, E, F, G for my employer, and I'm responsible to my manager primarily. If I'm a young new employee with no experience, I work with my manager. I'm responsible to deliver A, B, C, D to my manager. That's what I do. Now, in a situation where we call it a BPO, I do not know who my manager is. My manager becomes a mailbox, or manager becomes an instruction, and I've never met that person, and I work in some other location, in a different time zone, in a different culture, different environment. and I have some other local manager who's just making me do things on behalf of some other manager. So what therefore happens is my knowledge manager is someone whom I never meet or never see, and he's also my customer to whom I deliver. And I have an administrative manager here who just makes sure that I get paid, I get my appraisals done, my outcome is monitored, my output is monitored. We thought maybe very often understanding the content and the knowledge, right? That's
Just
what.
one second on that, Krishna, just to get this right. Are we therefore roughly talking about a matrix structure?
Yeah,
Where
a bit of a metric
functionally
structure. Absolutely.
So functionally you report to one person, administratively to another person.
To another person.
And if I've understood you right, the person to whom you report functionally, you don't even get to see him.
Get to see or get to talk, because that person sometimes is a work instruction. Why I say this is because when we put ourselves in the context of a normal organization, we see our manager there, right? But if we work in a factory, many of us 20 years ago, 30 years ago, worked as a factory accountant, where we would have never seen our chief accountant. Our chief accountant would have visited once a year to inspect the factory and come there. Or maybe once in 3-4 months, we'll go to the head office and meet the chief accountant. There, we would have still felt that we are part of the organization, and that chief accountant is my manager. I report to him, though you hardly meet the person. And you would have sent information by telex, or you would have sent information by mail, snail mail, even before the email was there. So in some way, a factory accountant in remote parts of the country was a BPO employee who did not see his manager, who did not know what was supposed to do. He was inducted and given some instructions. He was supposed to look at the material receipt, check with the PO, make the payment. Every first of the month, check the pay register, check the attendance record, make the payment. You were given some instructions, and you were doing it in good faith on behalf of the company. And your loyalty was with the factory, and your loyalty was with the company. The same situation, what we have done is we have moved this person from US and brought them to Chennai, brought them to Manila, brought them to Vuj and Bucharest, and now we call it BPO, Business Process Outsourcing. In this situation, that person is unable to see his manager again. He gets work instructions where we are, but he has now lost that loyalty and empathy with the company. His loyalty and empathy has become with the administrative organization. So very often, if it's not a shared service, GBS kind of a organization, if it's a third party, then the loyalty goes into the third party. So therefore, a new employee, young person coming in, gets conflicted. Who is my master? Whom should I keep happy? Rather than that, if you're able to tell them you should keep both happy, and you need to work in that what you call the matrix structure, it becomes easy. And that becomes a bit difficult for us, right? So business process outsourcing in some way has been happening for a long period of time. When we give away work to somebody else to do it, as chartered accountants, we also know before the independence regulations were so strict, we used to do bookkeeping, cash management, tax, advisory. Virtually, we are doing outsourced CFO service and everything else for them, right? So there was a bit of outsourcing in some way happening many years ago also.
I think that was a very good explanation. Not only just an explanation, I think it also puts it into perspective so that people don't begin to think that BPO is some poor cousin of the normal accountant. I think that was a very good example of bringing in the plant there. I just wanted to add one insight to what you said about this lack of loyalty. I had somebody tell me something a little different. Just tell me whether we can connect the two. I asked a guy once, where do you work? He said, I work in Dell. I was taken aback. I was not too sure whether Dell had operations in our country. And then when I asked him, where in Dell? He said, no, I work for Wipro BPO. Dell is the customer. What I'm trying to tell you is that maybe the employee has now associated himself with Dell rather than with Wipro BPO. Is that normal?
Yeah.
Or is that
it's a very interesting point you bring in. I can give an example of my current employer, Philips. We had a shared service set up 15 years ago in Chennai. Yeah. Then it was sold to Infosys. It was rebadged and sold to Infosys. The Philips employees became Infosys employees working there. Quite a few of them are still there with Infosys, right? And they have continued to work on the Philips account. So they feel more Philips than Infosys, some of them, right? So that is one. They still feel. after 13 years of working with Infosys, they still feel they are Philips. And in IT, you have a concept of this offshore development center because of data privacy and security reasons. You're boxed into a particular area within the floor or within the building and exclusively working for a company. And then your badges that you carry, access, email, the email that you write, everything will be of that company. So you may work for Wipro, but your email ID could be krishna.ramachandran@dell.com, right? Rather than Wipro. You'll have Wipro ID as well. So the association with the company gets stronger. These things have been built over a period of time to build loyalty and association and empathy with the employer, with the original employer, right? Rather than the outsourcer.
Okay. I do not know whether I'm being crude, but is this something the equivalent of what the IT industry, I'm talking about accounting BPO, is it the equivalent of what the IT industry once called body shopping?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe people have used body shopping and sweatshops and various terminologies to kind of brand this industry, right? So you would have used these words to describe what people are doing, right? You're buying bodies to do the work, but are you really buying bodies? I think in the BPO side, you're buying a bit of a brain, and maybe
No,
the brain through the hand.
just
So,
one thing. No, I think what the hint was not whether they are buying body or brain. The hint was that these guys are perhaps, the companies are perhaps not adding value. All that they are doing is that they are hiring people, placing them there, and the client looks after.
yeah, no, I get what you're saying now. I think the original business case for BPOs to come in low cost location was cost, right? You wanted to reduce the cost, so you were paying $100,000 or 70,000 euros a landed cost at a particular location. The same work is done at $20,000 or 18,000 euros in a third world country. So at that point of time, it was like body shopping, right? You did not care whom you got, as long as you got it at 1/3 the cost, 1/5 the cost, and you could still do the job, right? Which could be. Over a period of time, I think things have changed. Though it's still there's a set of work that comes, you just give the work instruction and say you do it. I tell you to do, you do that, right? But over a period of time, because this is like in the mature part of the BPO is about 25 years or so in countries like India, people have understood the process, understood the organization, understood the technology, and started moving up the rank line by line. So now what is happening is you see a lot of people who are managers and leaders in BPOs have gone into the corporate office, or the corporate office has been sending people here because most of the work is done here. So over a period of time, what has happened, it has moved away from the body shopping to process shopping, now to talent shopping, right? Now it's clearly talent shopping. So in an organization like ours, people are saying the next talent for finance, or the next talent pool of finance is going to come from our GBS locations, our shared service location, because shared service location has 70 to 80% of the headcount in most of these companies. It also has all the young talent, the fresh jobs, the entry-level jobs are now in GBS and shared service location. So the future talent is going to come from here. So we're no longer talking about just getting somebody who can do the job, but is that somebody who can tomorrow be the CFO for this company? Can he tomorrow or she tomorrow be the VP for that company? So the world has moved quite a bit, right? So
all right,
you see the word body shopping so much being used anymore. Yeah.
I will ask you one question, and then Kamaluddin will step in to make some announcement. The one, maybe I do not know, I could be wrong. Maybe you are speaking from the perspective of somebody who does BPO work for Philips exclusive. Okay, you're doing for Philips exclusive. But if you were an Infosys BPO or a Wipro BPO, which has multiple clients, okay, keep that in mind on the one side. And there's a fresh guy who comes to you, finished his CM. He's got a job offer from, I'm just picking up a name. It could mean, you take it just as a name, not as a company. He gets a job offer from, say, Tata Steel. Should he go to Tata Steel or should he go to work in this BPO?
Yeah. So young, freshly qualified chartered accountant, where should he or she work? Right? That's always a dilemma. So when I can give you an example of when I started working, my first employer was ICRA. It's a rating agency. A rating agency typically hired MBAs from B school, engineer MBA combinations, and very few chartered accountants. It was a different experience altogether. Then I, of course, changed many jobs before I came into this line. The advantage of working for a corporate directly is that you get a bit of an experience of an organization, of a factory, of an office, of a manager, and a complete setup, right? And which in BPO, because you're distracted in a way, you don't get the experience of a factory, of actual service center, and an organization flavor you don't get. But having said that, for a chartered accountant, its world is very different because you do your 3 years of articleship, where you have seen many factories, many businesses, many offices, many CFOs. The power of a chartered accountant, I think, is underestimated by many of us. This 3 years of internship or articleship, as we call it, is a very powerful experience which shows you all the things that you need to see virtually in a corporate world, right? The different, like from a mom and pop store to a large corporate, tax filing to audit finalization. So you get a very wide variety of experience and you're already there. So now you're not searching for an experience to see here or there or where. You're not seeing that, right? So you can choose whichever one you want. Why would I choose, a BPO kind of a setup today in India is the number of jobs that are getting created in a kind of a BPO environment, right, are many, first of all, many more than what is done in the corporate. Large domestic companies are also moving into shared service format. I mean, even mid-size family-run concerns, in Chennai are now setting up shared services. So that is the order of the day where SMEs or very high-level business process expert and CFO or one down will remain in the company. Rest will all move into a shared location, helping standardization, simplification, and automation, right? So the world is going to move more and more towards a BPO setup. And therefore, because I believe the future will be there, I think youngsters should go into that kind of a setup. So that was one. The second, they can, like in their articleship, work in multiple accounts. So they work in a Wipro or an Infosys or Capgemini or Accenture. They could get experience with different verticals, different companies. They could move every second or third year from one account to another account. They could get different experience. By being with the same employer, you can work one day for Rolls-Royce and another day you can work for Tesco, which is nice, right? Which is a good experience to have. So you could actually build a very nice career there. Yeah?
All right. We will take a break at this point. Kamaluddin will make some announcement. When we come back, we will try and talk about what are the kind of skills that young boys and girls must have in order to make a winning career in BPO.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. The interaction between you and Krishna sir has been wonderful. We are getting some incredible insights regarding the industry. And I just want to make an announcement on the upcoming product of ours. It is called Beyond 2020-25 Happening Careers in Accounting and Finance. This is a work of 8 professionals who have come together to let you know about the incredible career path that is available in multiple domains. So we are also expecting multiple webinars in the upcoming period. So please stay tuned to us and watch out for the space. Thank you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Kamal. I think next time around, if you can speak a little louder, it will be helpful. Or maybe your mic is not on. I'm not too sure. That was just a feedback that I got from one of the participants, but that's fine. So, Krishna, we'll talk about what are the skills. What are the top 3 skills that you would look for when you recruit a fresher into your team?
Yeah. You see, typically, we all when we hire, I come from a finance background. I hire a lot of finance people. But in the last 1, 2, 3 years or so, 3 years, I would say, I hire now a mixture. I have hired a lot of engineers in my team. Engineers, masters in computer applications engineers.
Yeah, we'll come to that, the RPA.
Yeah. So, which we call the techno-functional people. So there's a different set of people that we hire. So, for me, when I look at people, I look at 2, 3 things. I look as a person high on energy, right? And that is one. Second is how is the attitude? Is the person has got the positive attitude that I can learn, I can do, I can mold, I can do something. Yeah, I can work on in different environment. And third is how communicative or articulate is the person, right? Or how can he convince me of a story, or can he actually work in a collaborative environment? So those are the skills I really look at. Now it seems funny when I say this, because I didn't say is he good in accounting, is he a good tax guy, does he understand IFRS? I didn't say all that, because these are things people study, and a lot of them actually study for the examination point of view, right? And to be very fair, I think they skip a few, do a few things to make sure that they cover the examination and come to the employment market, right? And we do not use all the skills that chartered accountants have, or all the skills these accountants have, because we have limited skills, because we use ERP systems and we use our own way of doing things. So they need to learn a little bit of this. So a bit of unlearning has to happen, and a bit of learning of our processes needs to happen. So that technical side, I think, can be taught if the person has the right attitude and willing to learn, right? So we can teach the person. The person is energetic, we'll know that the output will be commensurate with the job expectation, or maybe even more. And in an organization, like we spoke about, a bit of a matrix organization, ability to communicate, convince stakeholders, collaborate, and work in uncertainty becomes very important, right? So therefore, I think the softer skills and attitudes are more important than the technical skills, because we can teach. It's not, because at the end of the day, we can teach what is needed for the job. And most individuals who come into a BPO in the first few years, initial stage, get a bit frustrated because they do things based on work instruction, right? Where I said they get a work instruction, just do that. So they're doing one part of the small part of a small part of a big process. There's a mega process, there's a process, sub-process, process activity. They do that activity. They don't understand that mega process. They're stuck here. And that, to train that person there, could take 1 day, 1 week, 1 month. So you can do that. It's not a very difficult thing. But if I'm able to hire a person with the right attitude or the right energy, and he wants to understand the mega process there, right, from here to the whole thing, it's a great achievement. And those kind of skills are very difficult to find, and those kind of skills are also very difficult to groom, because these skills are inherent in the individual, right? They can't be put in a training room for 2 hours and taught that skill, or they can't be put in a training room for 6 months and taught that skill. That skill they have to have themselves. We can only kindle it a little bit more, right, by giving them the projects.
Now, while on that, if I have got this right, this reminds me of what Henry Ford did when he brought in division of labor in the factory, and said that one part, that a guy will specialize in doing one part of one small part of a car. Now, are we getting to something like that, where my example might be very crude, but one guy looks only at purchase orders, or one part of a purchase order? Somebody else looks at another part of a purchase order. Is that the extent to which we have dropped things down? Or
yeah, absolutely. I think when you look at large corporations, I'm not even talking about BPOs, right? If you look at large corporations, you told about Tata Steel or wherever. Even those organizations, when you start working, you work in a particular factory, in a particular department, in a particular topic. So if you're buying limestone, you're buying limestone for years, right? If you're buying stationery, you're buying stationery for years. If you're paying, service bills, you're paying service bills for years sometimes. So that narrowness of the activity, I think, is coming in because of the sheer size of the operations of these companies. And Ford got this because Ford is the first one to have gone to a large scale, mass production. So when it was customized, it was built, like if you create something which is handcrafted, then the person is doing the whole thing, right? Or is involved in the crafting of the whole thing. But in large scale mass production, this is what happens. And because of this super specialization that is happening, and work becoming more routine and monotonous and work instruction driven, it also becomes standardized and also gets automated, right? That's what's happening. The super specialization.
I want you to talk about that now that so many things are getting so templated and so structured. And you also told me, maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but you also told me what is far more important is soft skill than hard skill. And that you could teach them, which means that you may not, though you didn't say that, You may not really need a CA. You can have somebody else to do it as well. Now, with so much of talk happening about automation, uh, what is the scope for these young boys who today come in there? I've read in multiple places that about 40% of works are going to get automated, whether it is robot driven or whether it's pure automation. This is the order of the day. So what will happen to many of these people? They're going to lose out jobs.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe there are 2, 3 different parts of your question. So I will first talk about what is the scope, right? So in many conferences, Everest and also companies like Automation Anywhere, UiPath, or the automation tool companies have said this, and therefore I can openly quote that India is the processing capital of the world. China is the manufacturing capital of the world. India is the processing capital of the world. So any credit card that needs to be paid, a dinner needs to be rebooked on a British Airways flight, or a hotel reservation needs to be done somewhere, somebody's ticket needs to be cancelled, some purchase order needs to be paid in some part of the world, or you need to send a reminder to someone for something. It's all happening here. So any process anywhere in the world of any airlines or shipping or logistics or manufacturing, somebody in India knows about it, and they know very well. So you've got the process expertise, which is a huge number of people who are here in the BPO industry, running into hundreds of thousands of people. Then you've got a pool of people, hundreds and thousands of engineers and technically capable, people who can code available in our IT industry. The combination of the two makes it the right combination to build a techno-functional team to help the automation industry. So what today automation really lacks is someone who understands the process and who also understands technology, how we can put it together. Usually it's 2 different people, and therefore this person writes a document and this person doesn't understand, right? An accountant speaks Greek, an IT guy speaks Spanish, and it's very difficult to make them understand. Imagine if an accountant understood how to code, or a coding guy understands how to do accounting. So therefore, I think the skills that we have in this country will be very useful for us to use it globally. As long as people have the right attitude and are willing to move away from saying, I only do journals, right? I only do a debit and a credit. I only know how to do ledger scrutiny. I know how to do balance sheet notes. From there to say, how can I automate the balance sheet notes? Should I use Python? Should I use RPA? What should I use? Or is there some other tool available like OneSource? Can I use that? Looking at that and applying that knowledge, I think it will be a great piece. So at a macro level, I think it's a great opportunity. At an entry level, jobs will get automated. There's no doubt about it. 40% in some places, 60%. There are all sorts of reports all over the place. This is the 4th industrial revolution, right? But there have been industrial revolutions before, right? People were using horses and stagecoaches. Then the steam engine came in, then the railway engine came in. But still people found jobs, right? From agriculture, people moved to manufacturing to services. And then from one category to another category, right? So new jobs or new types of jobs will get created, and people will move from this category of jobs to that category of jobs. I think the trick is to find what are the new category of jobs. New category of jobs has got to be clearly people who understand technology, who understand data, how to use them from a professional's point of view. I think that's where it will move. So therefore, our youngsters, if they see that I have done my BCom honors, right? I have done my BBA, I have done my CA, and therefore I'm fit for employment for the future, I think then they're wrong. They need to understand what IT skills they have. So when I finished my CA 23, 24 years ago, I realized I did not have IT skills. My organization at the time, we were still doing things on the typewriter and writing things by hand and stuff like that, with the carbon paper and all that. So those days, like many of us, I went to Apple and did a 6 weeks course to understand how to use a computer, how to use spreadsheets and stuff like that. I had to empower myself, right, before I went into the employment market. And the same thing is available today. There are free courses available, whether it's an Udemy or a Khan Academy or whatever you call it, or a few hundred rupees, right? Python is a free source. They need to learn Python, R, and they need to learn RPA. They need to be ready for that. Saying, no, I'm an accountant, I don't understand that, I can't go into the. So youngsters today who want to go into BPO have to keep upskilling themselves, not only in technology, but also in the processes for their area they work in. So they have to have a continuous learning process for the next number of years.
Just one point there. Are you telling that accounting guys, CAs must learn Python, must learn R, or they must know how it is going to get employed, and therefore somebody will work on Python and R?
Uh, well, someone like you and me should possibly know how these things work, so we can get things done. Because I don't think we anymore lack of humility. I'm saying we don't do any more original work, right? After years of experience, we stop doing original work. We start worrying about how to future-proof our organization, how to design the setup for sustainability, right? So therefore, but somebody who's going into the job market today has to learn technology, right? There is no doubt about it. So if you are a fresh chartered accountant, you need to do that. If the institute is not doing it, doesn't matter. You need to learn because it's available online, free to learn.
All right, let me give you a parallel example so that I can be clear that I'm right and other people can also be clear. You are now therefore indirectly trying to say that 25 years ago, no, the rough comparison of what you're saying, 25 years ago, it was not enough for the accountant to know what should be automated. He should have also learned COBOL. Is that what you're roughly telling?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
But that time, the problem was at the time is 25 years ago, that skill was taught there. It was not taught here. You had to do science in 11th and 12th, become an engineer to learn that. Today, that is not there. Knowledge is democratized. Thanks to Google, thanks to Udemy's of the world, anybody can learn anything, right? I can sit today and I can learn medical sciences online. I can read about it. I can't become a doctor, but I can read. I can improve my knowledge. So it's available on your fingertip as long as you have a smartphone, right? And we need to use that.
There is a question that somebody has put up. I thought I'll take that up now that you have spoken about skills and you have predominantly said that soft skills are far, far more important than the hard skills. Someone has asked whether treasury operations also have got BPOized, have got outsourced.
Yeah. So in treasury, typically they have this back office, middle office, and front office, right? That's the way they work even when they work in the markets. So front office is basically the traders. The middle office is where they do the middle office and back office is a bit fuzzy. Middle office where they do the documentation, they check all the stuff, and they make the back office where they do all the bookings and accounting, put it in SAP, put it in the investment ledger and all that stuff. So the back office part long ago came to India. Middle office is also coming to India. Are the traders here? I think very few, right? The traders are very few because the traders can be here because the trading is now online, right? For those of you who are investing in shares in India, now trading can be done online. You don't go to a broker anymore to trade. So you don't need to, there was a time when brokers had to go to the stock exchange to trade. You don't have to do that anymore. But what is still left is the softer side of the social side of the traders, which means the lunch meetings that they have and the evening connects that they have in the bar to get those friendly tips and find out what's happening. So the traders therefore tend to be concentrated in like the city of London, in New York. You don't have to be in the city of London. You can live in some countryside, but they go to work there because they need to meet those people. They need to network with those people. So the social part of the human side, right, where they get the network and tips, which nobody tells you, right, when you go into a job, that you need to network with people and get those tips, is still happening. And that will continue as long as there's a human-to-human relationship, which today is getting challenged because of COVID, right? For the last 2 months, I think that whole social concept is gone. So we are in a different model altogether. So that's why I think the front-end treasury jobs don't necessarily come here,
Speaking of COVID, there was somebody who was asking a question like, how would COVID affect the job market? You would like to answer that?
Yeah. Maybe if I was Vishnu, I could have answered it, But as Krishna, I'm also an incarnation of Vishnu, so I can make an attempt. On jokes apart, I think the challenge today is we don't know what COVID will bring, what will happen, right, in the future. And I have said this in a very short write-up in my LinkedIn is people have reinvented themselves. One thing which is very clear, and we are a lot more digital than what we thought. Because my own company, we could sit at home, do quarter close and month close. So therefore, I think COVID is really going to make our jobs more and more digital, and going to help us improve our work-life balance, right? Because I think more and more people are going to have mixed working from office and home. So that's going to continue. But will there be some job losses? I think there will be. So let's go back to what is COVID from a medical point of view. How many people have died of COVID? If you look at it, the large percentage of those people have those who have comorbidity. And comorbidity, for those who don't understand the scientific part, is they already have some other ailment, heart problem, breathing problem, renal problem, or age-related problem. So they have. So companies which already are in stress, like Hertz, I can give Hertz as an example because they filed for bankruptcy, already are in stress. Their cash flows are poor, their assets are aged, and their management style is not good. So they have already comorbidity, will suffer. Similarly, individuals like you and me, or who are working in corporate, who have not upskilled, who are not willing to reskill ourselves, or say, or are rigid to say, I'm a general ledger accountant, I only do this. I'm a direct tax guy, I will only do this. I will not learn poem. I will not learn indirect tax. I will only do this is what I will do. Have comorbidity. They will have a problem. So those who are healthy and fit, both in the brain, mind, body, and soul, willing to do something different, don't have these comorbidities, will survive in COVID.
I think just like your first example, this one is also terrific. You are therefore telling that this is only accelerating what would have otherwise happened over a period of time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm just saying, if I was today to lose my job and I want to find a job and I say, I want to again become a head of R2R, it's a problem. I have a problem. I have comorbidity. If I can start again my life with some job that I get and go up the ladder again, willing to start, the so-called, we talk about the W and V and U of the economy. It's also in our lives, in our careers. If you're willing to do that, I think we're all okay. But most of us have a problem with our ego. We're not willing to start it again, right?
You're planning to recruit people in your organization?
We are, I don't want to speak for my company officially, but in private, we are in healthcare business, as you know. Philips is in healthcare business. We manufacture ventilators. We manufacture patient monitoring systems. So therefore, we have many of our factories are running a double shift, and we have hired temporary contract workers in many parts of the world to cater to the requirement of the world. So therefore, I think we are in a business which is positively impacted on one side, but we also have something called health, personal health, where we manufacture irons, shavers, and mixies and juicers and all that. There, I think it's got a kind of slowed down a bit, right? So it's a mixed bag. So therefore, have we stopped recruitment? No, we are recruiting, but it's a different type of recruitment because we need people in the factories, we need people in supply chain. And even in the peak of lockdown, whether it was China or US or Europe, our engineers were on the ground going and installing the equipment and repairing the equipment. So so our business is what you call of essential services in some way. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. How does it affect the accounting guys? There'll be increase in recruitments or no?
Yeah.
Or it's the case of same invoice, higher volume going out.
Yeah. So I think typically when you sell more, you buy more, and that has impact on topics of procurement, invoices to be paid, or on cash to be applied, or vendor invoices to be sent. But what has happened in companies like us is we are highly automated already in the transaction level. So invoices are coming in digitally. Cash is applied also through either through bots or through applications. So therefore, those kind of volume increase that is happening doesn't really require to add manpower anymore, right? Their bots are running there, so it doesn't require anymore. But what is required, and which is interesting, is people who can project manage this crisis, steer people, monitor people working from home, and handle that. There's a set of skills that we need to develop in our people and create that. So that is one clear thing. And with COVID, you have seen what TCS has gone on record to say we are going to reduce the number of people coming to office. I think that is a very big opportunity.
That's a very
big opportunity from a finance perspective, I say, because you can still be competitive as BPO industry, and you can still have a success story of India, right? Because what we are not really tapping in our publicity is 2-3 things for India. One, we have a young, healthy workforce, right? So which is available, is still going to office every day or working from home every day in India, not falling sick, which is a very big achievement. And we are still producing a million plus graduates every year, right? And several hundred chartered accountants every year, and we'll continue to produce. So our labor supply of both qualified, technical is still there, right? And they're healthy, right? They're healthy, they're middle class to lower middle class, healthy people, which we are producing. On the other side, the technology side, also we are producing enough people. So the world can come here to buy. The same word, body shopping, you may not like it. There are enough people here available for the world to buy. And their attitude is good. We're willing to work, right? We're willing to work in night shift, or we work in American shift. We're willing to work in any shift, right?
All right. I think Kamaluddin might want to step in at this time. And then when we go to the final leg, Krishna, we'll speak about a little more about RPA, of the kind of work that is happening there. We'll also talk about what is the roadmap for BPO, roadmap in the sense as to what is the kind of future you envisage for BPO. And we will also look at what are the paybacks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. The interaction between you and Krishna sir has quite a bit of insights and real life examples. I, for myself, agree that soft skill is very much lacking in current scenario, and I totally agree on that. So I'd like to remind you that we are coming up with a product called Beyond 2020, 25 Happening Careers in Accounting and Finance. This is a work of 8 professionals who have joined in, did research, and have spoken to multiple experts in the fields on the careers. And it's coming up with, we are coming up with a ebook in the June or mid-June, and a printed book later. We have also created a podcast for all the careers. Some of them has been already uploaded in the Spotify and Anchor. We would like you to go and search and get benefited from it. Thank you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you. Krishna, what are the areas that are getting RPA'd, automated?
See, the thing in RPA originally was designed for automating rule-based activities.
Correct.
Right? So if there's a rule, it can be automated. So if it is up to 5,000 rupees, pay. If it is more than 5,000 rupees, check with A and then pay. If it is more than 100,000 rupees, check with A and check the PO, because there should be a PO, match it and then pay. So they are very rule-based. Now, because of which, what happened around the world, accounts or finance became the prime candidate for automation compared to other areas for two reasons. Because in finance, we have a lot of rule-based activity, right? It's there, though we say that a lot of things are gray, but actually in accounting, it's all very clear. It's black and white. Either your bank is reconciled or it's not reconciled. Either you're paid or not paid. Either the PO is complete or PO is not complete. Exhausted, not exhausted. It's very clear. There's no thing about, oh, this can be beautified further, it can be made later or something. Right? So it's very clear. And the second, CFOs are very interested in cost savings. So RPA was seen as a big cost saving driver. So therefore, the huge amount of focus came into the finance area initially. Though finance usually has anywhere between 5 to 15% of the headcount of a company, compared to normally operations having the largest headcount, and factory atmosphere, factory workers having large. So one, of course, is rule-based, which is happening. The second is what we call first-time right, which means you get it right first time, you don't have to repair it. So when you do an accounting, or when you do a posting, or you do an allocation, or you do a transfer, you need to get it right. If you don't get it right, somebody has to check it, or you have a consequence when you close the books of accounts for the month, then you see the allocation is wrong, then you have to go back and correct it. So repair usually takes 2 to 3 times the amount of work that it takes to do it first time, because you have a consequence and you're searching, and you spend a lot of time in searching, especially during critical time of book close or audit, you're searching for, and then your senior resources get involved in repair. So repair sometimes has a magnifying effect. So therefore, when you look at something, you want to get it right first time, that's also a good candidate. So you may not have volumes of transaction, but you may be wanting to get it first time right. The third category, in addition to rule based, is also you have to have one more filter, is the volume. You need some volume to justify, because automation is not going to come free or cheap. It also has a one-time cost. Then it has a maintenance and recurring cost. Maybe lower than an employee, but it has somewhat of cost. So therefore, you have to look at things which are voluminous, which can be done. Now, in this voluminous activities, there is an opportunity for us to run the automation nearly 24/7. May not be 24/7 because IT application may not be available. So let's say 20 hours by 6, 20 by 6 we are done. So therefore, there's an opportunity for us to do things ahead of the shifts. So people need not work in graveyard shift and night shifts. They can actually run it during that time. They can have a smaller part of the time they need to work. So as an employee, I don't need to work the entire US time. I can work some part of the time when I need to have interaction. Rest of the time, my bot can work, which I'm talking about the partner. So there I talk about the partnership, the man and the machine working together, which is very, very important. The human in the loop or whatever you want to call it. So that becomes a very important area for us to look at for automation. The last one that we want to look at is where we are not able to invest adequate amount of time. So I used to work in insurance before in Allianz. So when you call for a claim, right? You call for a claim, a lot of the transaction with the claim agent is mechanical, right? They ask mechanical questions. So there is a complete lack of empathy sometimes. So if you are reporting for very critical health claim or a death in the family, I'm sure you would expect a little more friendly conversation. I would not even say empathy. So there is an opportunity for us to actually automate those activities and use the time of the resources to have empathy calls. Because today the agent is measured, oh, I finished the call within 5 minutes. The whole time is so much, right? Now that time is not required. So your customer service improves. So therefore your NPS will improve. So that's an area where you can automate some work and move there. The last one is, we call in, in Kaizen, in Japanese terminology, we say you should have a flow, which means there should not be any peak and low. It should be this flow so that people don't have this peak and lows. In that topic, month end is a peak, audit is a peak. So there's an opportunity to automate activities which are month end based, audit based. Therefore, you don't have those peaks and it's in a flow. So an employee does not have to get stressed to go up and down. So these are areas, the last two I mentioned, are areas which are not threatening to the jobs, but helping you do your job better and helping serve the customer better. The outcome is better. Yeah.
I think that's wonderful. I think those are very, very well said. I just have one question. Maybe it comes out of my own lack of knowledge. I'm not too sure. There's a lot of noise that is being made of automation today. But from what I understand with people to whom I've been talking, all of this automation is not going to be done by a bot. Meaning it's not the bot is taking over. What we are doing is computerization. If I can use a very traditional word. How is the computerization of the late 80s and early 90s different from the automation that we are talking about today?
Yeah, no, it's a very, very valid question. I also ask this question to myself every time I talk in a forum on RPA. And it is also sometimes the critiques of RPA have said this, that RPA is nothing but automation in old wine in new bottle, automation new bottle. So, and jokingly I say automation RPA is a new Excel, right?
New?
So Excel,
Okay.
EXEL.
Yeah,
Excel.
correct.
So when I'm sure you would have experienced this, when Excel first came in and then we used to put the accounts in Excel and print it. My senior chartered accountant used to take the calculator and check, right, whether the computer is calculated correctly, because there's a bit of a mistrust. And I've seen my father is also a chartered accountant, and I've seen him, take out printed accounts and then still check manually. He'll do it in his hand. Mental maths is very good, right? He will do it in his hand. So the machine was not trusted, right? It was not all the case. So if you see from that point of view, we always use some automation in the form of Excel. There's some automation in SAP in terms of posting, allocation keys, and transfers. We've done all that. Now we are using possibly a branded tool to do something which is a little bit more secure, right? If you and I write a script, we can also automate, right? We can write a script, extract from here, like VB, when you do Visual Basic in Excel, you extract from here, do some massage and update. What we call the ETL, extract, transform, and load, right? That's the activity. But what these tools are doing is they have 2-3 things, right? One, it is branded. So therefore they are secure in some way, right? They've taken care of data security issues. bugs in the system and all that stuff, which you and I cannot take care of it, right? In a large corporation like mine or big multinational companies, you don't want the rogues to be sitting and extracting data from the source and doing changes, which can be corrupted or which can be hacked or anything. So that's one thing that the tools. Second, everything need not be invented at every time. A bank reconciliation is the same bank reconciliation whether you do it for Tata's or you do it for Adani's or you do it for Coca-Cola, right? It's the same concept of matching. So 50 to 60 to 70% of the activity, or what you call the coding or the configuration, can be standard. So these tooling companies have those tools written, or even I can write those tools and keep them and store them in a secure place and reuse them somewhere else. So what you have in IT industry, we have the reusability of the codes. Similarly, in RPA, also reusability of the configuration. So that is one of the reasons why these tool companies are kind of doing it very well. The third is it is creating a lot of digital knowledge, right? A lot of knowledge which was there in the heads of people or in the paper form is now available digitally. When we create more and more digital assets, the advantage of the next step is you can use that as libraries for you to work on artificial intelligence, machine learning, because artificial intelligence, machine learning needs digital assets and libraries. They cannot go into unstructured data and physical data and extract. So RPA and scanning techniques are doing that and getting it ready for the next generation of the work to be done. So in reality, is RPA required for everybody? No, you can still use Excel. So I tell everybody, you see where you can use Excel. Don't use RPA there, right? Use it where Excel doesn't work. Use it where your existing ERP doesn't help you, right? So where your existing application doesn't help you, there you use that, right? RPA.
Kamal, are there any questions on YouTube you would like to put them across? Because I think I have run through all of them which are on Zoom.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. This is a question from Mr. DK. If an experienced CA wants to set up a BPO in India, what are the skills required?
See, a chartered accountant, I assume, will want to set up a BPO largely for accounting services.
Yeah,
accounting services, not other areas. So there are two things. If you're going to be setting up a domestic BPO or an international BPO. So if you're setting up a domestic BPO, focus on Indian companies. And if you're setting up an international BPO, you focus on outside companies. So therefore, if you use non-Indian companies, I think there are 2-3 things that CA lacks, if I may be blunt here. One is cultural empathy, right? Which they don't teach you here, right? To understand how to work with the Americans is different from how to work with the Tamilian, right? Clearly. So that cultural empathy, the CAs need to build, right? How can I approach them, right? How can I understand their culture is important. The second is understanding their regulation, not only accounting regulation. The accounting IFRS is more or less integrating around the world, right? Nearly integrated. So accounting regulations is not so much important, but understanding their other regulations. Healthcare has its own regulations, you have regulations on export restrictions, data privacy and other pieces that we should be able to pick up. That's very important. So there are two things. If you're doing international BPO, you should do that. In the case of international domestic, both BPOs, the service orientation is very important, right? Because as a chartered accountant, we are very often black and white, right? We don't have gray. In the service side, there tends to be a bit gray. What I mean is, it's difficult. Of course, everybody says Indians don't know how to say no. We say yes, and then we don't deliver. That's a typical complaint in the BPO industry, right? Which is there. But I'm saying we need to say yes, and we need to deliver yes. So that service orientation. Similarly, we Indians, we typically say that we will deliver it tomorrow, or we deliver it on the 18th of the following month, and we don't keep our commitments because we just go on. And I jokingly tell this to my customers or colleagues or others, because we Indians believe in rebirth. So concept of time doesn't stress us so much. They get stressed by time because they want to do everything in their current life. We believe we can't do it in this life, we can do it in next life. So that's why we don't get stressed. I tell them this jokingly. So therefore, the service orientation is important for a chartered accountant to say, how can I help you? What can I do more? Because I think the younger chartered accountants are very different from the time that I did my CA, right? When the time I did my CA, auditors were respected and also to some extent feared when you go into a company. So you carry a bit of authority even when you're an article clerk, right? Not just when you're a partner or a manager. Even as an article clerk, you carry a bit of authority, and even the CFO of the company will come and discuss issues with the article clerk. So you are already, walking little above the ground, and your ego is getting boosted. But when running a BPO as a chartered accountant, you're a service provider, right? You need to meet the requirements of the person who's asking. That service orientation is very important. So there, I think the chartered accountant needs to come 2 steps down, swallow the ego. He's no longer an auditor; he's a service provider now, right? Changes that way of working.
I think that was good, Krishna. I'm very thankful to you. That has been a wide coverage. I think Krishna has tried to tell us most of the things that we wanted. And more importantly, I think he has put it very lucidly, coming out with appropriate examples. Kamluddin, you can go ahead and close today's session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. That was a wonderful answer. I wasn't expecting that kind of an answer. Thank you on that. So before I close out, I just have another doubt or a question from Mr. Gautam. How should a commerce graduate learn RPA? Are there any RPA tools that we specifically need to concentrate on?
Kamaluddin, that will be the last question, okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. There are no specific RPA tools for finance, right? Because there's nothing of sort. The democratization of knowledge is so high today. Most RPA companies, have a website and they have a university, and you can learn online, and you can also get certified.
Correct.
Does it give you a job? It doesn't, because it's like you acquire technical knowledge, bookish knowledge, no practical experience, right? So you can do that. So there you go to UiPath, Automation Anywhere, you name the company, they all Automation Edge, they all have a website. You can learn, you can get certified. After having done that, there are a lot of things you can do yourself, right? You have access to Tally, you have access to Excel, you have access to, say, Amazon. You can say, query in Amazon the books, bring it here and put the price and here on the chart and show it to me. Start learning things, small things, right? It's like, like children learn the first, how to write A, right? That's the first thing you learn, how to write A. Then how to write the small a. You can learn these things, right? Because unfortunately, as adults, we are shying away from learning the A and the capital A and the small a. We feel it's too trivial for us to learn. But we need to come down and say, let me learn that. So our commerce students can easily learn this. Anyone can learn this. I have spent time. I have learned it in my much older age, when I'm in my late 40s, after many years. It's not very difficult. Though I use it, I don't, unfortunately. But you can learn it. It's not very difficult.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. That was an excellent answer. So I thank all the participants and the attendees today. It was a wonderful session between Pattabhi Ram sir and Krishna Ramachandran sir. I hope we have tried explaining you the nuances about the career in BPU, and I hope you all get a great choice to work on this career path. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your presence here.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you.
I also thank you. Thanks Excel and Prime Academy for facilitating this. Thank you. We'll close it up, sir.
Krishna, you can exit.